Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Puri Vratikacharya Ashtottara Satta Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mayi Ki Jai Jamuna Mayi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, and welcome everyone for Srimad Bhagavatam with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. It is Wednesday, February 26th, 2025 in New York, and tonight we're starting off with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 11, Text number 24, Swayambhuva Manu is speaking to Dhruva Maharaj. Jai Maharaj, so happy to see you. Glad you could be with us today. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nachaite putraka bhratur antaro dhanadanugaha visarga danayos tata pungso daivang hikaranam. My dear son, those yakshas who are descendants of Kuvera are not actually the killers of your brother. The birth and death of every living entity are caused by the Supreme, who is certainly the cause of all causes. I'll move on to text 25. Srila Vishwanath only has a very brief commentary on text 24, but we can go back over that. Sa eva vishvang srijati, sa eva vati hanti cha, atapi yanahankaran, najyate gunakarma bihi. The Supreme Personality of Godhead creates this material world, maintains it, and annihilates it in due course of time. But because he is transcendental to such activities, he is never affected by ego in such action or by the modes of material nature. In this verse, the word anahankara means without ego. The conditioned soul has a false ego, and as a result of his karma, he gets different types of bodies in this material world. Sometimes he gets the body of a demigod, and he thinks that body to be his identity. Similarly, when he gets the body of a dog, he identifies his self with that body. But for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no such distinction between the body and the soul. Bhagavad Gita, therefore, certifies that anyone who thinks of Krishna as an ordinary human being is without knowledge of his transcendental nature and is a great fool. The Lord says, Namam karmani limpanti. He is not affected by anything he does because he is never contaminated by the material modes of nature. That we have a material body proves that we are infected by the three material modes of nature. The Lord says to Arjuna, you and I had many, many births previously, but I remember everything, whereas you do not. That is the difference between the living entity, or conditioned soul, and the Supreme Soul. The Super Soul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has no material body, and because he has no material body, he is not affected by any work he executes. There are many Mayavadi philosophers who consider that Krishna's body is the effect of a concentration of the material mode of goodness, and they distinguish Krishna's soul from Krishna's body. The real situation, however, is that the body of the conditioned soul, even if he has a large accumulation of material goodness, is material, whereas Krishna's body is never material, it is transcendental. Krishna has no false ego, for he does not identify himself with the false and temporary body. His body is always eternal. He descends to this world in his own original spiritual body. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita as parang bhavam. The words parang bhavam and divyam are especially significant in understanding Krishna's personality. Om Jnana Timirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistang Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshvari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanang pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Throughout this whole section, Swayambhuva Manu has taken various turns in his reasoning with Dhruva to stop killing the yakshas, and now he takes another one. He's speaking about the nature of the Lord. First, he says that the yakshas themselves are not the ones who killed your brother, but the Supreme is responsible for the birth and death of every living entity. He says are caused by the Supreme, who's the cause of all causes. And in the next verse, he says, as if to say, and don't be angry at Krishna. He says that the Lord is not affected by the modes of nature. So his activities don't affect him. So there's no reason to be angry with him even. So yeah, you have to understand who Krishna is. He's not someone you can be angry with for acting out of false ego, because he has no false ego. He only has real ego. Only the conditioned souls who are stupefied by the material energy think that they are their bodies, that their brothers' bodies are their brothers, etc., etc. They're also affected by the modes, all three of them. And Prabhupada goes on at some distance in this purport to say that there are some people, namely some Mayavadis, who think that the Supreme Lord's body is made of some concentrated mode of goodness. I don't know where they grabbed this from, but apparently they put this forward as some kind of definition of Krishna. And of course, the mode of goodness being material, it qualifies Krishna as, guess what, a material product. So he's not Brahman. So therefore also Maya. But Prabhupada handily disposes of this by, saying that if you look at descriptions of Krishna and what Krishna says about himself, no work that affects me, for example, then you won't get this mistaken idea, which he's also trying to save us from. Maharaj, we'd love to hear from you on some of this, on some of these points from the purport.
Thank you, Kendra Prabhu. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Astracha Deshatarani. The Nachaite Putraka Pratu Antara Dhanada Ka Pisarga Adanayo Tata Pumsa Daivam Hikaranam. In the Bhagavad Gita, Yena Veti Hantaram Yastrainam Manyate Hatam Ubhoto Navajanito Nayam Hanti Nahanyate. Anyone who thinks that he's killing or that he's being killed, neither of them know what is what, because the soul doesn't kill anyone and the soul's not killed by anyone. Finally, Daivam, everything is done by destiny or ultimately the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So why be angry at the yakshas? I was thinking, in an ordinary novel, it could be, hey, stop this. What are you doing? This is crazy. But in Bhagavatam, so much philosophy, understanding, practical application of philosophy is given. It's not just a drama and the crescendos and all of that stuff. It's deep understanding. It's the Lord who's causing and the Lord who's creating and the Lord who's destroying. It's the Lord who's doing everything. All right, then be angry at the Lord. Well, no, you can't be angry at him either. There's a Vedanta Sutra. I've forgotten the Sanskrit, but the meaning is that he's not to be held responsible for the actions and reactions of the material world, which are awarded as a result of the living entity's own doings, his own karma, his own doings. So saeva vishvam srijati saeva patihanti cha tapi hyan anahankaran tapi hyan ahankaran najate gunakarma pi. He's creating the universe, he's maintaining it, he's destroying it, and there's no false ego here. Ajyate guna karma pi. He's not entangled by his activities. We're all entangled by our activities. As soon as we do something, we're getting, what are we, we're like releasing a chain of action and reaction that just spins off into the future and is unlimitedly complicated and entangling. But namam karmani limpanti. Limpanti means, comes from a root that means, if I recall, to stain. The Lord's not stained by anything. He's spotless. He's unaffected by the actions and reactions of the material world. And as you said, anahankar, he never falsely identifies with his body because he is his body. There's nothing separate to identify with. Prabhupada quoted Dehi Deha Vibhedo Yam Neshre Vijite Kuchit. Prabhupada had us add this line from, I think, Kurma Purana to the purport of Bhagavad Gita as it is. When he read it in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he had us add it to Bhagavad Gita as it is. It goes right to, of course, his favorite, what should we say, the miscreant who writes that it's not to Krishna that we have to surrender, but something within Krishna. So here, there's no difference between Krishna's within and without. There's no false ego, and he never becomes entangled. And the Prabhupada explains everything, I think he explains it here. Everything's being done by his internal energy, or external energy, rather. So why should the Lord be held responsible for that? Divya, Janma Karma Chame Divya, everything he does is transcendental. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. I'm looking to see other comments or raised hands in the chat till we see one. As you were speaking, Maharaj, it occurred to me that what's happening here from one angle of vision is that Swayambhuva Manu his purpose was to keep peace within the universe and also to give some instruction to his direct relative, in this case, Dhruva. And the dialogue here is him essentially saying, stop fighting now. And now he's bringing the thread of the conversation around to the Supreme Lord, who's actually controlling everything. And that's another reason that you should stop fighting. And it seems almost analogous, but the flip side or the opposite of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is explaining everything to Arjuna, and for this reason you should fight. And Swayambhuva Manu is saying he's explaining everything, and for these reasons you should not fight.
Yes, nice. It's also significant. Tanadad anuga. These yakshas, they've been previously described as punyajana, pious persons, although sometimes we think of yakshas as demonic. From this point of view, they're followers of Dhanada. Dhanada means the giver of wealth, Dhanada, Kuvera, the treasurer of the demigods. So these are pious persons. You shouldn't be killing them. And there is a hand up.
Yes, actually, there were two just a moment ago, and one just got lowered. Saraswati Mata, please go ahead.
Pranams Param Pujya Maharaj and all the Vaishnavas. There seems to be a parallel track that ran in the life of Janmajaya, the son of Maharaj Parikshit, because he also wanted to extinguish the race of snakes since his father was bitten and killed by a snake. And, he even went as far as to try and perform a yajna whereby he could achieve this goal, completely extinguishing the race of snakes. And he was stopped by, if I sort of recall correctly, I think it was a very young sage who intervened and sort of explained that this isn't the way to go for someone who's a devotee, and thereby they saved the life of Takshak Nagaraj, who was the snake that was responsible for killing Parikshit. So my question is, the Janmajaya was also a devotee, and we know Dhruva is a pure devotee. So can we, by seeing these actions, can we take it that it's the Lord's Yoga Maya that's influencing them to sort of temporarily forget the transcendental platform that they've been situated on, and sort of act like a common conditional soul? Hare Krishna.
Nice parallel with Janamejaya. Yes, we can take it that way. That why would, just as we find that Parikshit Maharaj is garlanding Samak Rishi with a snake, that's not really something that a devotee does, but he does it so that Srimad Bhagavatam will be spoken. So these things do happen by the internal energy of the Lord for our instruction. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for that point, Saraswati Mataji. Would you like to read our next verse?
All right.
There's another question again.
Yeah, hand came back here.
Oh, sorry, missed that. Sorry. Please, Priti Purnamadavi Devi, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. In context to text 24, where it is Swayambhu Manu is asking Dhruva Maharaj to stop the fight and saying that actually the birth and death of every living entity is caused by the Supreme. So there was another example that you had mentioned in the previous classes about how when Duryodhana was captured by the Gandharvas, Pandavas had to save him because it was the matter of family. As a Kshatriya, his brother was killed by the Yaksha. So is it not his duty to fight with them? Because today, if they are killing his brother, they may come back to kill somebody else. And also, when Dhruva Maharaj attacked Yakshas did not surrender.
Before we start adding questions, if we could do that one first. Yes, it's his duty, but he's taking it too far. It's not that all the Yakshas killed his brother, only one Yaksha, and now he's wholesale slaughtering the Yakshas. So as Manu will explain, that's not your duty. That's going too far. Same thing with Parikshit Maharaj. It's not that all the snakes killed your father, one snake, and you're wiping out the whole race of snakes. This is too much. Yeah. These things, by the way, get analyzed sometimes from one angle of vision, sometimes another. Sometimes, yes, it's a Kshatriya. As a Kshatriya, it's good that he took strong action and so on. Then from the other side, it appears that he was deviating from his prescribed duty because he was going too far. So you can, the Bhagavatam commentators do this all the time. They look at it from one angle, they look at it from another angle. Second part?
And Maharaj, I was thinking when Dhruv Maharaj attacked them, Yakshas did not surrender unto him. They kept attacking him back. So he had to keep fighting, is it not? Because they were not stopping to fight Dhruv Maharaj also. If they would have surrendered and then Dhruv Maharaj would have gone ahead, then
But
maybe.
Maharaj didn't have to be there in Nepal or Tibet or wherever it was, killing yakshas. It's not the only possible outcome was for them to surrender. He could say, all right, now I've taught you a lesson, good, done.
So Maharaj, in our lives, let us say if our near and dear ones or some Vaishnava in our community gets hurt, then is it the same principle that we apply, that all this is caused by the Supreme, so there is no point in correcting anybody or taking an action against anyone?
It has to be considered. From one point of view, this is the vision of a great soul. The Mahatmas will see that and say, everything is caused by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But if you're the judge, for example, or you're the king, you're not supposed to see that way. Well, everything's caused by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one is really the cause of action. Therefore, no one is to be punished in my kingdom or rewarded, because everything is ultimately happening the way it's supposed to happen by the will of the personality of Godhead. That kind of universal vision is meant for the Brahmins, especially, or even if the Kshatriyas have it, they have to come down from that position to perform their prescribed duties. They can't. Otherwise, how can they act if they're seeing that, well, everything's done by the personality of Godhead? Just like Prabhupada explained that about Vyasadeva, that the ladies covered themselves because Vyasadeva was a householder. Householders have to know the difference between male and female. He can't take the position that everything is absolutely on the transcendental level. He has to make these distinctions, or he can't be a householder. So here, you can't be a king if you're going to take that position. If you're going to take that position, then it's time to go off to the forest and absorb yourself in meditation or something like that, because you can't perform your duties as king. I think there's some instances in Bhagavatam where I've forgotten who it was. It's just a short mention that he gave up the kingdom and just early and went to the forest and absorbed himself in meditation. If you're on that level, then do that. But if you're going to be the king, then you have to carry out the duties of a king. When Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the government magistrate, he didn't say about this, what is it, Vishaki saint, false Vishnu. Well, everything's ordained by the personality of Godhead. The Thakur punished him severely. So one has to act on that platform, even if one knows that there's a higher level of truth.
Yeah, thank you so much, Maharaj. And also it was mentioned in the previous chapter that Dhruv Maharaj set out for Alkapuri inflicted by lamentation and anger. So the purpose also matters in taking the decision whether to retaliate or not.
Yeah, in one sense, Manu was speaking according to the circumstances. We were reading in the Daksha Yagya how very subtly, when Brahma approaches Lord Shiva along with the demigods, he's suggesting quite obliquely to Lord Shiva that a great soul doesn't see anyone as an offender. He excuses all and so on. So he's sort of pouring water on the on the fire of Lord Shiva's anger, or on the fire of Lord Shiva's anger. So we and as pointed out to Arjuna, Krishna say, you should kill them all. So according to the time and the place and the desired outcome, a Krishna conscious person may highlight one aspect of the philosophy or another aspect of the philosophy, or even highlight the same aspect with a different intention, as Kendra pointed out, that taking the same point, Manu is urging Dhruva to desist from fighting, and Krishna is urging Arjuna to fight, taking the same point, that everything is finally on the spiritual platform and ordained by the personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yes, thank you. And just checking the chat. Next, I think we're ready for our next verse. So if you're ready, Mataji, Saraswati, please go ahead.
Yes, text 26. Esha bhutani bhutatma bhuteshu bhuta bhavanaha swasaktya mayaya yuktaha srijati ati cha pati cha. Translation: The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the supersoul of all living entities. He is the controller and maintainer of everyone. Through the agency of his external energy, he creates, maintains, and annihilates everyone. Purport: There are two kinds of energies in the matter of creation. The Lord creates this material world through his external material energy, whereas the spiritual world is a manifestation of his internal energy. He is always associated with the internal energy, but he is always aloof from the material energy. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita 9.4, the Lord says, Matstani sarva bhutani na chaham tesha vavistitaha. All living entities are living on me or on my energy, but I am not everywhere. He is personally always situated in the spiritual world. In the material world also, whenever the Supreme Lord is personally present, is to be understood as being the spiritual world. For example, the Lord is worshipped in the temple by pure devotees. The temple is therefore to be understood as being the spiritual world. Om Gyanantimirindasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So all the acharyas have explained in great detail about the three principal energies of the Lord, which the internal energy is the one that the Lord is most directly and intimately associated with, and it is under the protection of the internal energy that we know about the spiritual atmosphere. It's completely connected only with the internal energy, and the marginal energy, that's the jivas, the living entities. They can choose to be under the shelter of the internal energy or the material energy. And if their choices leads them to have their original consciousness, which is spiritual, contaminated by association with matter or the external material energy, then therein is the start of all suffering and misgivings and misunderstandings, and they're thrown into the cycle of birth and death in the material cosmos. So it's clear that the Lord is aloof from having direct contact with the external energy, although it's clear every energy that Krishna possesses, and he possesses many different kinds of energies, they're always under his control and always at his disposal. And all three energies, the internal, marginal, and external energy, they're all there only one purpose is to serve Krishna. And that includes all the Vishnu Tattva expansions, of course, all the Jiva Tattvas, and Maya. Their only purpose is to serve Krishna and be subordinate. So although it says here the Lord is the controller and maintainer of everyone through the agency of external energy, we know that that the Lord does this through different demigods that are in charge of the material affairs. It said Lord Narayan has three primary Shaktis, Shri, Bhu, Nil. The Shri Shakti, with that he creates the material cosmos, and the Bhu Shakti, he maintains everything, and the Nil Shakti is employed to annihilate the material cosmos. So whether the Lord does this through his different energies or the expansions, the Purush Avtaras, ultimately he is completely in control of all of those processes. We know Krishna has Satchidananda Rupa, so which is spiritual, and he is never ever contaminated or influenced by the modes of material nature in the way that the conditional living entity is. So I came across an interesting question. I think it was answered by Srila Prabhupada in one of the classes. Somebody was asking him about the jiva, why it is that the jiva is minute. And if I recall correctly, Srila Prabhupada said, well, Krishna is complete in every single energy that there is out there. So he has his unlimited internal energy. So the jiva is the limited energy of the Lord. And why shouldn't Krishna have a limited version of his energy? So I thought that was quite, Srila Prabhupada explained that so nicely. I was quite taken by that. Why shouldn't he have a limited energy at his disposal? So these are some of my comments, but I have one question for Maharaj. I came across this line. It says pravritam cha nivritam cha janena vidur ashra. So it means that the asuras, the non-devotees, they cannot distinguish between the pravritti activities, which are activities, of course, carried out purely for sense gratification, and nivritti acts, which are meant to elevate one on the transcendental platform. The confusion is that sometimes even devotees are also not able to distinguish, what exactly is pravrittim and what exact acts are nivrittim. So this is one of my questions. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Even the demons also sometimes get it right. Sometimes they do something that they're supposed to do. But constitutionally, their business is mischief. The pravrittim cha nivrittim cha vidur jana pravrittim cha nivrittim cha jana vidurasura nishocham napi chajano. They're contaminated, they're vicious, so they're always doing the opposite of what they're supposed to be doing. And sometimes they do something that's okay. So the devotees, they're constitutionally situated in devotional service. And sometimes there's something that's not quite right, but that's superficial. Just like you make a nice preparation, sweet rice or shrikand or something, and a little something gets in there, a blade of grass or whatever. So that's not taken very seriously, because constitutionally it's a first-class preparation, and just something is there. So devotees are like that. Even if there's some apparent fault in a devotee, it's not taken very seriously because he's constitutionally right. He's situated in service to the personality of Godhead. The example is given in Nrsimha Purana that there's some marks on the moon, spots, we would say, on the moon. But that doesn't invalidate the beauty of the moon or the wonderful qualities of the moon. And poets don't hold back from glorifying the moon because it's got spots on it. But a critic, a scoffer, will say, finding out the bad qualities wherever he can. The Acharyas, they'll even find some good qualities in the demons. Who was it? Kamsa was showing some symptoms of ecstasy, I think, or something like that. Some demon, they were experiencing some sort of transformations on account of Krishna's activities. So you say, well, something good even in the demons. Or even Krishna, he found good qualities in Putana witch. So she acted like a mother. So if we look, we can find some good qualities even in the demons, but constitutionally they're vicious. And if we look, we can find something discrepant in even in the devotees, but that's defective vision. They're really situated on the perfect platform. There was something else. Well, while we're at it, the Goloka eva nivasatya kilatma bhuto, that Prabhupada's pointing out that wherever Krishna goes, that's the spiritual world. Goloka eva nivasatya kilatma bhuto. He's in Goloka Vrindavan, but he's everywhere. Vrindavanam parityajya padamekam nagachyati. He never steps foot outside of Goloka Vrindavan. That means if he's somewhere, Goloka Vrindavan must have come with him. So Prabhupada makes this point that the Krishna's presence in the temple, that means the spiritual world is present. Wherever in the material world the Lord is present, that's the spiritual world, because Krishna is there. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj. I was going to see whether it would be convenient for Madhupati Prabhu to take our next verse. If we did the same audio settings as yesterday, it worked out great.
Okay. तम एव मृत्युम अमृतम तथा दैव सर्वात्मनोपेहि जगत परायणम यस्मै बलिं विश्वसिजो हरन्ति गावो यथा वै नसी दाम यंत्रिता. My dear boy Dhruva, please surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the ultimate goal of the progress of the world. Everyone, including the demigods, headed by Lord Brahma, is working under his control. Just as a bull, prompted by a rope in its nose, is controlled by its owner. Purport. The material disease is to declare independence from the Supreme Controller. Factually, our material existence begins when we forget the Supreme Controller and wish to lord it over material nature. Everyone in the material world is trying his best to become the Supreme Controller, individually, nationally, socially, and in many other ways. Dhruva Maharaj was advised to stop fighting by his grandfather, who was concerned that Dhruva was adhering to a personal ambition to fight to annihilate the whole race of Yakshas. In this verse, therefore, Swayambhuva Manu seeks to eradicate the last tinge of false ambition in Dhruva by explaining the position of the Supreme Controller. The words Mrityum Amritam, death and immortality, are significant. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, I am ultimate death, who takes away everything from the demons. The demon's business is to continually struggle for existence as lords over material nature. The demons repeatedly meet death after death and create a network of involvement in the material world. The Lord is death for the demons, but for devotees, he is Amrita, eternal life. Devotees who render continuous service to the Lord have already attained immortality. For whatever they are doing in this life, they will continue to do in the next. They will simply change their material bodies for spiritual bodies. Unlike the demons, they no longer have to change material bodies. The Lord, therefore, is simultaneously death and immortality. He is death for demons and immortality for devotees. He is the ultimate goal of everyone because he is the cause of all causes. Dhruva Maharaj was advised to surrender unto him in all respects without keeping any personal ambition. One may put forward the argument, why are the demigods worshipped? The answer is given here that demigods are worshipped by less intelligent men. The demigods themselves accept sacrifices for the ultimate satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurmitanyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pestaya Puttara Kritas Jayadvaita. So Swambhuva Manu is advising Dhruva Maharaj to give up his personal ambition to fight the Yakshas, or to eradicate the race of the Yakshas rather, and surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Supreme Controller. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport nicely mentions about this material disease is to declare independence from the Supreme. On the material platform, we think that we are the controller, right? And we try to do so many things whimsically, right? But the Supreme Lord is the Supreme Controller, right? Bhoktaram Yagyatapasham Sarvalokamaishwaram. He is the Supreme Controller, the Supreme Proprietor. And on that platform only, we can understand, we can get peace, right? Bhaktaram Yagatapasam Sarvalokamaishwaram Suridam Sarva Bhutanam Gyatvamam Santim Richati. Right? Only when we consider this, know about the Supreme Lord as the Supreme Enjoyer, the Supreme Controller, the Supreme Beneficiary of all sacrifices, only on that platform one can attain peace. Otherwise, we will go on fighting based on our own whims. The other words, other thing which was striking, which was the words used here, Nityam Amritam, death and immortality. The Lord is the ultimate death for the demons. At the same time, he is Amritam, immortality for the devotees. Because devotees are completely serving the Supreme Lord by devotional service. So when they leave their body, they still continue performing the devotional service. Either in the material body or here in the purport, the Sherpa was mentioning that now in the spiritual body, not that they become one with the Supreme Lord, but they continue the devotional service. While the demons, they completely lose that out, and instead, they throughout their life they oppose the Supreme Lord and his devotees, and ultimately they meet death And for the demons, the Lord is death personified. Ultimate death. Yeah. Yep. That's all I had. Good.
On the Bhagavad Gita, Amritam Chaiva Mrityuscha Sadasach Margin. Krishna says, I'm death and I'm immortality both. And Prabhupada ties that here, that for the demons, he's death, and for the devotees, he's immortality. And the what's the word, elaboration of that is interesting. The demons, for the demons, he's death, because they continue on the path of death, mrityu samsara vartmani. So it's death after death after death after death for the demons. And for the devotees, amrita, no death. They're serving Krishna. Now they'll serve Krishna in the next life, in the spiritual world, or even in this material world. If they're serving Krishna, they're on the eternal platform. So amritam chaiva mrityuscha daivam. So surrender to him. What is that? Tameva sharanam gaccha sarva bhavena bharata. Tat prasada param shantim. What is that? Tat prasada param shantim. It'll be found by someone. The Ishra Sarvabhutanam Pritya Sirjanatistati. The everyone is controlled, and still we're thinking we're independent. And the extent of our control, to which we're controlled, escapes us. That's Maya. We're thinking, I can do whatever I like. Or here, even the devotee Dhruvamars, there's some apparent appearance of, all right, this is my business, some false ego. So the devotee has to be, what's the word? Totally instrumental to the will of the Lord. Nimitta matra, pavasavya sachin. Not at all independent. Materialist wants to be totally independent. A pious person wants to be, okay, I'll do something for you, but this is my own independent project, and this is my piety project, my religion, my pious activities. And the pure devotee surrenders. Krishna, whatever, I'm your, what is that? Amitava Nityadas, Prabhupada in his prayer. Amitava Nityadas, my dear Lord, I'm just your eternal servant. So this is the the understanding and the desire of the pure devotee. The materialist resents any interference with his plan, and the devotee just wants to surrender to the Lord's plan. And he sees that the whole world is under the Lord's plan. What is that? Our Sampritya, and everyone is dancing like puppets according to the direction of the Lord through his various energies. Dhammayantrita. Dhammayantrita. The bull is controlled by the rope through its nose. It has no independent program. The whole world is working under Krishna's direction. But the materialists are resenting it and trying to escape or trying to do something for their own enjoyment and becoming more entangled, like criminals. So the devotee just wants to surrender more and more for the pleasure of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Jai Maharaj, thank you. Saraswati Mata, please go ahead.
Yes, we've been talking about the different energies of the Lord, and I don't want to veer too far from the current topic, but I was reading some further details about this internal energy of the Lord. Of course, we know it's Sat Chit Ananda, and with the Ananda, the Ladini Shakti, it says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, when the Ladini Shakti emanates from Krishna and is bestowed upon a living entity, the jiva is attracted to Krishna and becomes a pure lover of Krishna. But when the Ladini Shakti is adulterated by the external energy and it emanates from the jiva, it doesn't attract Krishna, but the jiva is attracted to sense gratification. So this sort of implies that the jiva is just this helpless being, that things are just being imposed on the jiva. I'm not sure. I think I'm really confused with how this Ladini Shakti is contaminated by the external energy, and then it comes from the jiva, and then they're somehow now no longer attracted to Krishna, but now you're attracted to sense gratification. I wonder if Maharaj could explain that a bit more. Hare Krishna. Maharaj, you are muted.
Thank you. Well, it's quite the topic to embark on 4 minutes before the class ends. But in essence, there's Krishna has his pleasure energy, and when the living entity engages directly in the service of the pleasure energy, he is situated in his constitutional energy, constitutional position. But when he chases after the reflection of the internal energy, then he's seeking pleasure for himself. He thinks this pleasure is meant for me. Everything should be employed for my enjoyment. Then he's in illusion, he's in Maya. The language is a little technical, and to unpack it, we'd have to spend more time, but that's the essence of it. It doesn't imply that the living entity has no independence. He has independence that he's misusing. He doesn't have to be trying to derive pleasure by lording it over the material energy. He could take pleasure in serving Krishna, but that's up to him. That's his independence. It's not that there's some sort of ordained situation where he must be seeking the adulterated form or the reflected form of pleasure energy. It's up to him. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. And Saraswati Devi says, that makes all sense. Thank you. And Hare Krishna. Would it be possible for Madhupati Prabhu to lead us in our closing kirtan today?
Okay. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Gurudas Jayadvaita Swami Niti Namine Nama Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jayadvaita Radha Sivasadi Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay,
Jai Om Vishnupad Purnamansa Paripurajaka Stotra Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Sham Kun Radha Kunigiri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, Madhupati Prabhu, and thank you everyone for being here. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj Ki Jai.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Bol. Thank you, Maharaj. And everyone, looking forward to seeing you tomorrow for Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita class. Hare Krishna.
Hari Hari.